Mr. Linkletter, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I guess I'd like to call you Art if I could.
Everybody does.
You have been around for a long time. I was talking to you during the news, and I said, do you ever have any older folks come up to you and say, I watched you on TV when I was just a kid? And now they don't look like the way they did at that time, probably, huh?
Well, of course, they not only tell me that they watched me when they were a kid, but they even remember what they said and what I gave them 35, 40 years ago. You gave me a little radio set or gave them whatever, and it's a memory that sticks with people because, it's like, how often do you ever get to be on shows? And they when they're kids, well, of course, later on, the kids who were kids of the kids who were on the show began showing up. That's when I knew it was time to move on.
What was the first one? House Party was a daytime show, wasn't it?
Yeah, 5 days a week on CBS for 52 weeks a year. We didn't have any hiatus in those days, and that ran for 26 years. The first one was People Are Funny, and that was NBC at night. Friday nights, it ran for 19 years. So you see, the heart of my career was really two shows, although I did many other programs during that. I did at one time Life with Linkletter on ABC when I was doing the other two shows, so I was on all three networks every week.
And Kids Say the Darndest Thing was the last one, then, is that it?
Well, there was never a show called, there was a show called Kids Say the Darndest Things, but it was not part of the House Party. It was a separate show. And it became a book, which was the #1 bestseller for 2 years.
Yeah.
And sold millions of copies and launched me really into a writing career that now is 23 books.
You are one of the sharpest 81-year-olds I think I've ever talked to.
Well, I stay sharp because I keep sharp with being active. I tell the older people are reaching that wonderful time when it's a privilege to be alive for the first time in the history of man, and I tell them that to be doing things, have something to get up for, have something to hope for, something to work on, and not necessarily in a career, but in either in a volunteering way or in a family way, writing your own biography for your grandchildren or whatever it is. The thing to be is to be alive.
Mm-hmm. You have to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Right. And I have plenty of reasons. I'm on the board of several major corporations. I lecture about 40 or 50 times a year, travel about 150,000 miles a year, ski. I'm just getting my stuff packed to go skiing on Sun Valley this coming Saturday. I finished Vail about 2 weeks ago. And then in the summer, I'm planning my annual trip to Hawaii where I surf and have my own board and all that sort of stuff.
Do you mountain climb too?
No, I don't do that. I like coming down, not going up.
You live on a mountain, I'm told. In fact, you told me.
Yeah,
I know where I heard
on
that.
A small mountain overlooking LA. It's called Bel Air, and I see the whole city below me, and a gorgeous sight from Dodger Stadium on my left to Catalina Island on my right. The whole city spread out below me.
And you weathered the earthquake in fine order.
Yes, nothing happened to us. We've been living here all our lives in Southern California, so earthquakes are nothing new to us. Although I must say this was the sharpest and the most frightening one of all of them.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you weathered it in good order. Art Linkletter is on the line on WJBC. We're going to open the phone lines at 829-2345 and find out about a new TV show. In fact, we made it sound like one of these other ones was your last. It's never the last for you. In fact,
no.
There's one that's on public television called, in fact, what is the exact title? I know it deals with aging and...
Positive aging.
What's it called?
Positive aging.
Positive aging.
In other words, successfully being old.
Sounds like an electrical show there at first.
Well, I tell you, this show came out of my lectures and my book, Old Age is Not for Sissies, which is really my motto because I believe that you got to stand up for your rights and can't be treated like some old person that helped across the street. They help you into old age.
Right. Which is, even the way you say that's more of a positive way. I've heard other people say getting old is heck, or they say worse than that,
Oh, sure. But it isn't. The fact of the matter is, and this is strange, from the second you're born, you only have two choices in life, to die or to get older. And getting older isn't bad if you take care of yourself on your way to it. And that means following the 7 basic rules of a good, healthy life. Number 1, don't smoke. Number 2, don't drink immoderately. Number 3, watch your diet. 4, exercise. 5, a good night's sleep on a regular basis. 6, surprisingly, probably, a good breakfast. And seventh is, of course, the matter of having your mind active and working and thinking. Those are the ways that if you can use all 7 of them, and you're born today, right now as a child, you can expect to be in your 80s. And when I was born, 1912, you could expect to be in your 40s.
Wow.
Think of that.
You started off on a rough note, too. We can talk about that in a second. I want to bring up some of the crazy things you did on People Are Funny. Can we do a little of that?
Sure.
When we come? And we'll take some phone calls, too. Art Linkletter, folks, is on the line, and you can talk with him, too, at 829-2345. You're in tune to WJBC. Where it's 11:13.
Attention, Central Illinois. Bob Dennison Ford has received a huge shipment of new trucks from the Ford Motor Company, making us the #1 truck dealer in Central Illinois. Dennison has over 150 trucks, and we've got to move them out fast. That means incredible dollar savings for you. Get a 94 Ranger for only $96.88 or a 94 F-Series truck for only $11,999. Rebates applied. Hurry for the best selection and savings. See Central Illinois' Truck Authority, Bob Dennison Ford, Route 150, Veterans Parkway, Bloomington.
Are you an adult who doesn't have a high school diploma? If so, I would like to see you in my free GED review class. My name is Deb Ginsky, and I teach at Bloomington High School. I can help you review reading, writing, math, social studies, and science to help you get ready for the test. Pick up the phone and call 828-3309. I'm saving a seat for you.
Okay, there were great moments. There was on one of the shows I'm reading here, and some of this comes back to me. You tried to show people cashing checks written on 40-pound watermelons. That's just one of the things you did on People Are Funny. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I gave a lady a watermelon on which a check could be written, because actually a check can be written on anything. But the real trick was that it had to be cashed at the bank it was written on. We were in Hollywood, and the bank was in Dallas, Texas.
So it means going across the country for a ways.
Yes.
With a watermelon on her lap.
Yeah, without breaking it.
Yeah.
Check can easily break, when it's on a watermelon.
And it wouldn't bounce. You can guarantee that. But it could break. Art Linkletter is on the line, and you can be, too. Do you have a question? Whoops, an open line at 829-2345. I was trying to notice some of the other stuff that happened here. Some of it's incredible. You were the first one to really do UNIVAC computer dating. The first computer dating service was on your show.
That's right. We matched people up on the basis of a lot of different questions that were asked, and then the UNIVAC, we fed them all into a big UNIVAC computer. In those days, a computer that today is the size of your hand was the size of a whole room full of tubes. It was a great big monster.
Right.
And it would match up who should get married, and then we'd send them out on dates and put them through various things. And as a result of, I'd say about 20 or 30 or 40 of these kinds of things, 2 people got married, and neither marriage worked out, so enough of computer marriages.
People are still trying it today, though.
I used to complain that our computer was in love with a vacuum cleaner on the 5th floor and got mixed up in his figures.
Wow, that's some pretty clever stuff, really, and it's still being done. Actually, you were a pioneer in so many ways.
I'd say the biggest thing, the most unusual thing we ever did, we bought a house on a street that was going to be moved and changed in a few years, advertised it as a house for rent, picked a couple and put them in the house. It was our house, but they didn't know it. We had a fake front real estate, and then we had a fake contest in the store where the lady worked, and they won a contest prize to San Francisco, and while they were gone to San Francisco, we moved the house. They came back, they were met at the airport and told an additional prize was to come down and see a People Are Funny show. When they were in the audience, I said, has anybody in the audience been away for the weekend? They put their hands up, and I said, did you remember to do everything when you left the house? Lock the doors, shut the windows, turn out the lights, and so forth. I said, we're going to send you out to your house. We're going to give you $50 for every one of those 10 things. Then we had a camera out there, and when they arrived, all they saw were pipes sticking up. Well, they then realized they were our victims, and we played with them for about 5 weeks. We had them back, and each week we sent them out to try to find their house. We gave them bloodhounds, helicopters, sent them down to the police department, to the Division of Missing Houses, and finally we revealed the house itself in a big circus tent next to my studio on Vine Street, which was hidden there under a a circus thing which said Madame Lazanga, fortune teller. We said, well, go in there and find out what the Madame Lazanga might tell you. And they went in, there was their house.
Now, that had to be an expensive
it was
project.
Expensive and ran a long time. It was a wonderful stunt.
Did you ever have any that just failed miserably?
Oh, yeah. We generally had our biggest problem with people who hadn't seen each other for many years, like relatives or old business partners, and we got them together, and when we got them and they wouldn't even talk to each other. They were still mad at each other. And then I'd try to persuade them to make up. But I didn't have any idea they were enemies.
That's got to be pretty embarrassing.
Here is your old brother that you haven't seen for 15 years. Well, to hell with him.
Never get in a fist fight. Was this live? Was that live TV then?
Yeah, it was live TV for many years.
And, of course, that was live when you would talk to the kids then, too.
I had to handle anything that came up, whether it was well, we sent one guy up to a restaurant, and he got in a fist fight with an actor we had hired there. And to our amazement, this was during the early part of the war when there were a lot of servicemen around. The whole thing had a riot, and they called the police and arrested 15 people. So when things get out of the studio, they're even out of hand, you know.
Everything can happen. I think maybe when people are in a studio audience, they expect,
Yeah,
well,
they
we're on
expect
television
anything.
now. We're under control, but in real life, who knows, right?
Yeah, Ralph Edwards with Truth or Consequences. Remember Ralph Edwards?
Sure.
And me with People Are Funny. They were the two original first big stunt shows which went anywhere in the world and did anything. Delivered live elephants to people's front yard with a note from some relative they hadn't heard from in years. Sold mink coats that were worth $5,000-$10,000 for $2 out in the street, and people were so suspicious, immediately that they were hot.
Or just trying to give away money sometimes. You would do that, wouldn't you?
Give away money, dressed up people as hobos, sent them out to order a big dinner, and then tell the waitress they had no money. On and on and on. We was always something new. And it was really a very exciting time.
Yeah. Oh, that's great when you think about it. And
doing a show live with that kind of thing going on in those days was like doing a tightrope wire without a net under you.
Right.
Today, most all the shows are taped. And if anything goes wrong, what the heck, they just do it again.
Right, and they make a big deal out of showing the bloopers.
What most people have forgotten, of course, was in those days there was no tape. So we had to do two live shows for a coast-to-coast program because of the difference in time.
One on the East Coast and one on the West. Huh?
Yeah, 8 o'clock in New York was 5 o'clock on the West. Well, that wasn't a good listening time for a prime-time show, so we had to do that show for the East, and then we went out and had dinner and so forth and came back, got a new audience, new people, because they weren't actors. We couldn't do the same stunts with the same people, and so it was two different shows. And of course, many of the programs out here in Hollywood of the big stars during those 3 hours, the important program was the East Coast show with all the big audiences and the clients and the agencies. But the West Coast show was kind of like a local show.
You could kind of relax on that one.
They went up, and some of them came back from drinking. They were so relaxed they didn't even remember doing the show.
It's 11:21. We're talking with Art Linkletter on WJBC. We'll be right back.
Cindy Miners is the branch manager at First Fidelity. You have a brand new building, and we're going to walk through and take a look at it. And where are we now?
Right now we're in the reception area. When you enter into the building, you'll meet Debbie Baker, who's our receptionist.
Okay, let's walk around the reception area, and you just kind of give us an idea of what is going on.
We have our processing area here where Barbara and Deanna process the loan applications,
Something that's pretty exciting that's going on right now called community homebuyers.
which allow lower down payments and a little bit easier underwriting standards for those people who maybe haven't been able to save as much for a home or have had some job changes in the past or credit problems in the past.
What about first-time homebuyers?
First-time homebuyers are in an excellent position with the low down payment programs that we have. It's easy for them to make their first purchase right now.
Who do you want to talk to about all of this?
They can come see Ted Simpson, Marty Power, or myself.
And that's Cindy Miners, who is the branch manager at First Fidelity Mortgage, 2101 Eastland Drive in Bloomington.
It's one of those days. There's not enough lemonade in the county to keep you cool. Your dog's too hot to growl, his fleas are too hot to bite. And it's as dry as talcum powder on a cracker. It's just too hot to work.
I tried that.
But Marksman's working. It's one of those days. The creek's rising faster than a kid on Christmas morning. The sky's darker than fresh tar, and it's too wet to walk a duck. It's too wet to work. But Marksman's working. That's what Marksman does. In dry years, in wet years, and every year in between, Marksman works like no other herbicide to control tough broadleaf weeds in corn. Even velvet leaf and cocklebur. Even triazine-resistant weeds with no carryover. No matter what it's doing outside, Marksman's outside working. Restricted use pesticide. Read and follow label directions.
Okay, good morning. You're on WJBC with Art Linkletter.
Good morning, and I'm enjoying the program very much, Ken.
Great. I am too.
Back a lot of memories.
It sure does.
Yeah. The things that I really enjoyed most was on the TV was the makeup. When we would make over somebody, you know.
Oh, yes. That's a big thing nowadays on lots of shows, but we started it.
Yes.
We'd take somebody and we'd have makeup and a hairdo, and it was lots of fun. I had Edith Head, the famous dress designer, and I had Perce Westmore, the famous makeup artist.
Right, from the House of Westmore. I always remember that. The one show I remember in particular, and I don't even know if I can even say this on the air, but it was on the air at one time, was when the little kids were on the stage, all the school kids from this certain class, and you were asking them questions, and the one little boy, his dad was a truck driver and was gone, and he slept with Mommy.
Yeah, I remember that. I said, are you lonesome, your dad being away? He says, no, I get to sleep with my mommy except on Wednesday nights when Uncle Harry comes over.
And I'll never forget that.
Evidently, it stayed with Mr. Linkletter here, too.
I'll always remember Uncle Harry. And it's so nice to hear you. And I know that you're a young man. I have listened to you for 50,000 years and have thoroughly enjoyed it, so you know I'm ancient, but I know you're a young man. I can tell by the sound of your voice.
That's the way I think of myself.
Many more years to you.
One of the surprising things about getting old, of course, is that you're still young inside. If you have if your life is interesting.
Yeah. We ought to talk about the show in a minute. Just a couple of other things that you did on the show. I just reading here. Among the gags, 2 men trying to get passers-by to join them fishing in an open manhole, and they caught healthy-looking trout from this manhole, right?
That's right. And then one time we had a little guy with a saddle with a battery attached to it, and he was standing in a hallway on Hollywood Boulevard, and he'd say to passers-by, "Hey, come over." The guy'd come over and says, "I'm a jockey. I'm going to be in a race at Hollywood Park on Saturday. This is the way the saddle works with the battery and the charger, and I'd like to tout you on to betting on the horse." And we got people to bet on the horse. We opened a storefront on Hollywood Boulevard as a branch of the government seeking volunteers to go up in the first rocket ship. The first,
Yeah, that was before it was a common thing.
Yeah, and then we signed up about 15 people, told them what it was about, invited them down to the studio, and asked them why they agreed to go up.
Yeah.
It was we did fascinating things.
Those were fun
people
things.
to do anything.
You had a little girl go over to other tables in a restaurant and ask other patrons to eat her icky vegetables.
Yeah.
And another one, you tried to get a delivery boy to disrobe before entering a nudist condominium. Now that sounds to me like it was before its time.
Well, a lot of them were before their time. In fact, the whole show is before its time. The one thing that I don't understand about television today that it wasn't before its time was the dragging of poor, dysfunctional, nutty, sick people in front of the camera. When I look at television in the afternoon, especially today, and see the parade of transvestites and...
You wonder if people don't just make this stuff up to get on.
No, there's just a lot of people who want to talk about it, and I don't understand it.
Okay. Well, that's you're not the only one, I'm sure.
I must say, once in a while, I'm fascinated by it.
I happen to see a little bit
like looking into the sideshow of a circus,
I happen to see a little bit of this show that's going to be on WILL TV because it was run over in Peoria, I think, the other night, and I just happened to be dial flipping, and I saw it. And I saw where you were a little taken aback by some of the sexual talk on your show.
It was, because in this show that I did, Positive Aging, I was trying to prove naturally through guests and comments that when you're old, you're not necessarily senile or sick or sexless. And so many people think people are. And so I had the sex therapist, who was 78, talking about sex after 65. And she, of course, being a therapist like Dr. Ruth, she talks about it all the time. And the things she said, even though I had no idea they were coming, it startled me.
Brings back those days of what those kids would say to you.
Yeah, yeah. The two best interviews, of course, are kids under 10 and anybody over 70. They say exactly what they think.
They don't pull any punches.